Hi again. Okay, second part of my video today. Topic is ear tuning exercises for Mandarin. However, uh, most of that was covered in the first video. The second one, I'm going to show how the ear tuning syllables get tied into the rest of the process. Okay. Now, I just stopped and posted a set of ear tuning marks, and along with the ear tuning syllables that go along with um, those tone marks. Uh, Anyone who wants to learn Mandarin, just look up San Mao 1. San Mao is SANMAW, and then 1, San Mao 1. Should bring up the audiobook on YouTube. Start listening to it right there. Once you've listened to it for 21 hours, you have the ear tuning marks for the tones. Ear tune to that first. Starts right at the first, like the 5-second mark, right at the beginning of the audiobook, and we get comfortable ear tuning to those ear tuning marks. Start ear tuning to the syllables, ignoring the syllables except for the ear tuning marks. And if you wish, you can go on from there and do the ear tuning to the syllables themselves. I did not put a key there. Hey, if you want to learn Mandarin from me, just contact me on Facebook Messenger. I'll be glad to teach you Mandarin. I'm actually decided to try to teach Dutch through this channel here. In other words, starting Wednesday, I'm going to teach my system all over again, but I'm also going to teach anybody who's interested Dutch along with learning my system. So they'll be listening to a lot of Dutch, followed by ear tuning to Dutch, followed by read-throughs for Dutch. Why Dutch? Well, a guy I work with has volunteered to be reading me the Dutch stories for me. We're going to actually make our own stuff up. So we're not any worried about, we're going to put it on YouTube, and well, he's doing all that work. He's going to put his just simply stories, audio only, and then I'll provide anyone, I'll be providing the text here as a comment to my post of the video I'm posting. So everyone will have the text that goes with what the guy's saying in Dutch. And of course, I'll also post ear tuning syllables, etc. When I start explaining what the sentences mean for the read-throughs, I'll put all that there. Okay, back to Mandarin. So if you're learning Mandarin from me, everything's right there for you for a sentence. The tone marks, so you can use to do ear tuning exercises to tones directly. Then the ear tuning syllables, which also have the tone mentioned by the number, followed by the pinyin, followed by the symbols themselves, followed by the symbols grouped into words, then grouped into phrases and words. And then I have the symbols again with all the extended definitions. So earlier I gave you the definition that fits the sentence. Now I'm giving you all definitions that are all usual definitions for that symbol. Next line, I'm going to give you all the definitions of both the symbols and the words. A lot of times 2 symbols make up a word. Then you have another line that's going to be all that by phrases and words and individual symbols. An individual symbol can be a word, mind you. Okay. And then the next line, I have the actual translation in English for you, telling you what the overall sentence means. And I might have one more line even, that if necessary. There might be some grammar that needs to be mentioned for that sentence. And so I'll mention that minimal amount of grammar. Altogether, for a sentence in Mandarin, I give you everything you need to do the ear tuning so that you can hear it correctly, both the content of the syllable and the tone it's set in. And then I give you everything you need for read-throughs. And what's a read-through? A read-through means that you're just going to look at this first sentence in Mandarin. You're going to look at all my notes about what each individual symbol means, what the words mean, what the phrases mean, what the overall sentence means, any grammar notes. And you're going to get a fairly good idea for the moment of what that first sentence means. And then you're going to listen to it while reading. And you can do that several ways. When I say read, well, hey, you can read my ear tuning syllables. You could read that row where it's just the symbols. You could read the row where the symbols are grouped into words. You can read the row where it's grouped into phrases and words and symbols. So you got a lot of ways to go there. But bottom line is you're reading the Mandarin as you're hearing it. And I tell you at this point, read it right along as it's being spoken. Okay? You can do that because during the ear tuning exercises, you're taught to be able to follow the Mandarin exactly as it's spoken by the ear tuning syllable. So if you can do that, you can also read it just as fast, as you'll see. Okay. So, and the first day you're doing this, remember you've been spending maybe a month doing ear tuning stuff. Okay, you hear this Mandarin really good. Okay, now I'm telling you what the first sentence means, and you listen to it, full speed speech, and you probably don't really understand what the guy says. That's okay. Listen to it listen to it while reading a couple more times. Then just listen with your eyes closed 2 or 3 times. Then move on to the next sentence. And you keep moving on to the next sentence. Never worry about really learning that day what you are what you're hearing. You don't care too much. You were told what it means. You listen to it. Move on. Okay. Now the next sentence, again, you're going to start with doing some ear tuning for it. Then you can do some that is worrying about what things sound like. And then you're going to get into what it means. Now you're focusing 100% on what do those words mean. You're getting away from thinking about what you're hearing. You kind of separate it. 100% on the sounds and 100% on the meaning. Okay. Then you move on to the next sentence. And you never understand. The first day, you probably don't understand anything when it's being spoken. But the next day, you do, because your speech center thinks 20 times faster than you. I call your speech center a language supercomputer, which everyone's born with, which only gets stronger with age. As you grow older, it gets stronger and stronger. It's all it does. The more languages you learn, the stronger it gets. So your supercomputer up there overnight while you're sleeping will have caught that stuff that you didn't catch, and it'll process it. It makes up these things called paradigms. It'll put this in your permanent memory. You wake up in the morning knowing more Mandarin than you did the day before. I mean, you didn't know any of the day before, mind. You're going to know some of this Mandarin. When you go do the same read-throughs again, you're going to go like, oh, yeah, kind of get it. Well, initially, there's only going to be several sentences you've learned, so the first few days, you're going to go through all the sentences you've been taught. Each day you go through them, you're going like, whoa, now I'm starting to understand it. And the 5th day, whoa, I pretty much understood what he said when he said it. Guy's talking full speed Mandarin, and there you are understanding it, okay? Maybe not. It doesn't matter. But you keep moving on and on. Eventually, maybe you know 100 sentences in Mandarin, kind of. The last 30, not so much, but the first 30 or 40 you know really well. The 30 or 40 in between, not so well. Because you keep learning new sentences, the same time I have you go back to the first sentence and start over, go first, second, third, fourth. Each time you start over, you're picking up that better. And overall, you're picking up Mandarin better. And eventually, hey, you're going to start soaking stuff up. Now, with Mandarin, I've not gotten to that point where I'm soaking stuff up by hearing Mandarin. No, I'm a beginner in Mandarin, okay? I'm not trying to, you know, snow anybody under here. Different words for it. I'm not trying to deceive anybody. I am a beginner in Mandarin, okay? Yeah, I know a lot of Mandarin grammar. I got a pretty good ear for it. I can listen to about 6 minutes of Mandarin, a story of San Mao, first story and half the second one. I know what they're saying, okay? It's not a whole lot of Mandarin. It's not beyond beginning level. But if you learn Mandarin from me, you can catch up to where I am. And when you do, you're going to know a lot of basic vocabulary, a lot of basic grammar that you just learn as you go without really trying. And you're going to have a very good ear for Mandarin. And once you catch up to me, hey, maybe you can prepare the lessons. Because here's where I'm trying to tell people. They wonder, well, why if I have this great system, and if it's so great, why am I not fluent in all these languages? Well, hey, I'm the guy that's teaching the languages, so I have to learn the Mandarin myself, because no one's teaching me it, okay? And once I learn it, I have to prepare all these lines for my students to learn the Mandarin from. So for one sentence, and I do this, by the way, not just for my students, I do it for me. To prepare that sentence takes me hours. To prepare maybe 3 sentences, that is like 3 hours of time, at least an hour per sentence. It's slow to prepare such material. Once I prepare it, then I can look at it. Well, how much have I actually looked at it to where I am doing all this stuff? I'm doing the ear tuning. I'm doing the read throughs. I have my students doing. Precious little time. I've not even done it for 2 weeks for Mandarin. So, how much Mandarin do I know? Not enough. I mean, but I can teach it because I've had people learning it through this system, and they learn it. It just works. All of it works. Can I tell you how it's gonna work a year from now if you stick with it? No, I haven't been there. But based on my observations from any other language I teach, it'll be like any other language. Any language that a child learns, they get to a certain number of words they know, and then any new words are always in context, pretty much, and they start very rapidly picking up the language. It's just how language goes. You start with a little, and it built the speed that you get it builds up. Now I teach and am learning 12 languages. So I've done a lot of this with Mandarin, I've done a lot of this with Korean, and I've done a lot of this with Arabic, and none of which I know very well, okay? All very time consuming. The 2 most time consuming, well, the 3 of them are really time consuming for me. Mandarin the most, followed by Arabic, followed by Korean. The other 9 languages I teach are not as bad. Hindi would be the next one because it's a little more foreign to me than some of the other ones. I can prepare material for somebody in like Russian pretty fast. I got all kinds of material prepared. There's lots of languages I have all kinds of material prepared for, and some I have very little prepared for. So what I can teach you depends on what I have set up to teach you with, okay? So my time basically is divided three ways. Teaching people my system, which is what I'm doing here with this video. Teaching people a language. And three, teaching myself the language from the material that I set up for either myself or the next guy. Now, a lot of the material started out me making it up. Some of it I pushed myself to go ahead of where I was so that I could keep ahead of my student. My dream, of course, is to find students who really are serious about teaching. Why is that so important? Well, look, if I learn Mandarin really well, that's one person learning Mandarin, okay? If I teach you Mandarin, okay, that's one person learning Mandarin. But if I can teach you to teach Mandarin, maybe you teach 10 people. And better yet, can you teach 10 people Mandarin and teach them how to teach Mandarin and have them each teach 10 people Mandarin? Well, now we got 100 people, etc. My hope is that this goes, it skyrockets. I get people interested in teaching these languages using my system, learning my system, teaching the system, teaching languages, and so that's my hope. And with that said, in a couple of days, I'm going to start teaching Dutch with the help of a language partner of mine who's been teaching me Dutch. And now he speaks with a bit of an accent because he's from Belgium, but he's not that bad at Dutch. And we talked about it. People, if they can understand what he's saying when he's speaking Dutch, they ear tune to his language, they're going to be able to understand Dutch, and any other something like Dutch. As far as the ear tuning aspect of it, it's just not make that much difference that he's going to be speaking it with somewhat of a what they call Flemish. Anything from Belgium, any flavor of Dutch coming out of Belgium, they have a general term for it called Flemish. There is no such thing as Flemish really, although there is the country of Belgium has an official Flemish language where they say, oh, this is Flemish, but no one actually speaks it. Everyone speaks their own dialect in Belgium, and if they go to college, they may learn what the proper thing is, just a certain way to say it in what they call Flemish. But again, there's no such thing as a population anywhere in Belgium that speaks Flemish as an academic thing, made up academic thing, and so anyone who learns Dutch from me or from me and my partner here, they're going to learn with a little bit of an accent. So, and I don't think this can hurt anybody. You're still going to learn a lot of Dutch. And people who want to learn, Dutch from a Dutch speaker per se, not me, mind you, but from an audiobook playing in Dutch, that's great. Contact me separately on Facebook Messenger, and I've already got at least one person and another person next month. So I'll have a couple of people learning Dutch from a audiobook that is in Dutch. But what I'm going to start teaching here starting Wednesday is Dutch with a little bit of a Flemish accent to it. Also, tomorrow, I'm going to continue my final lecture on this series about my system. And tomorrow, in particular, that is going to cover read-throughs. And I'll give you a little bit of preview how that's going to go. A read-through is a way to associate a known language to your target language. And the way I do these a lot, there's more than one way. I mean, but a lot of the time, this is how it goes. And I described this earlier in the video, so I'll be brief here. You have the person look over the notes for a sentence. Then you have the person read the sentence while listening to it, maybe 3 times, and then you have them just listen to it 3 times with their eyes closed. Why close your eyes? Put all your attention to your ears. 100% focus your ears on what you're hearing, okay? That's for understanding. Well, that's one way to do read-throughs. You can do that sentence by sentence. What if you're more advanced? Well, if you're more advanced, yeah, I've done read-throughs for Spanish a half hour at a time, where I'm looking at a whole half hour of Spanish, reading it, and then just listening to the whole half hour, okay? And for German, I might even skip the reading part and just listen to it. You know, I call that a read-through because I know what it said, perfectly okay without having read it, or maybe I've read it before. So today I'm just going to listen to it carefully. So I listen to the story carefully, okay? So what is a read-through? A read-through is just, doesn't matter how advanced you are, its bottom line is you're reading through something. How much are you preconditioning that with a known language? Depends on where you are. If you're very advanced with Spanish, you may only have to look over, you may have a list of 12 words in that half hour section that you're having trouble with. Okay, look over those 10 words. Okay, those mean okay. Now listen to the half hour Spanish, and those words come up, and you didn't throw you at all. You knew what they were this time. A new student for Mandarin is going to probably look at every single symbol, every word, every 2-syllable word. They're going to look at everything for every sentence, okay? And anything in between. Maybe it's 5 minutes of material at once. Now, there's another way to do associations between the known and the target language. That is called comparison. That is where, if I'm going to teach you Italian, and I do this myself, I will just simply listen to the English version, all right? I'll listen to the English sentence being spoken, and then I'll listen to the Italian sentence being spoken. And then I'll listen to the Italian sentence being spoken while I'm reading it, okay? Then I'll listen to the Italian again just by listening to it with my eyes closed. But so I never, in this case, I never looked at any definitions, nothing visuals, all audio. Maybe I listened to the English again. Maybe I listened to the English again while reading the Italian. Okay? There's lots of ways to mix and match here. You can be reading the English or hearing the English while reading the Italian. Okay? So there's several ways to compare the Italian to the English. And why am I talking about Italian so much here? Because I do this with Italian a lot. So there's a good reason for that. Italian has a lot of idiom in it that I'm not used to. I mean, I already knew French, Spanish, learned a lot of Portuguese, and now I'm trying to, I didn't learn the Portuguese so much before I first started learning Italian. The second time, where I'm putting a lot of energy into Italian with my methods, I've since learned a whole lot of Portuguese. So I've learned a lot of idioms from Spanish, Portuguese, and French, but it doesn't mean that those idioms show up in Italian. And Italian has a lot of idioms in it. So in other words, how you say something. Well, okay, you can study the heck out of that, or you can do it the easy way. Listen to the English sentence and listen to the Italian sentence. This way you already know what they're saying, and then don't worry about it. You keep comparing the English to the Italian, you're going to see that same idiom over and over again. And after seeing it like the 20th time in the story, you're going to go, oh, this seems awful familiar. 20 more times, it's like, oh, how could I have ever not known that? 20 more times, oh, isn't that English? Oh, they're speaking Italian. Oh, okay. I can't even tell the difference. It doesn't matter. When they say that in Italian or said in English, I still understand exactly what they're saying. It just becomes secondhand nature without ever having studied it if you just keep doing the comparisons. I've been there trying to do it the other way, studying idiom. It's a slow slog, and it doesn't get you anywhere. You can just study and study and study, and you just haven't. You look how far you got. Oh, you only got one paragraph. No. Okay, well, I'm not joking too much there. I mean, it takes a long time to digest idiom in Italian by studying it. So don't do that. Do what I do now. I use my experience. Just compare the English to the Italian, and just keep doing that until that Italian idiom seems natural to you. Okay. So there's lots of ways to. There's an infinite number of ways to associate words to Italian words, known words to target language words. And some are great ways, in my opinion, some are not so great ways, but they all work as long as someone keeps telling you what Italian words mean, and you keep listening to a story, and you know more and more. But see, the way I do it, I only want you to learn the words in that story, because that's the story you're listening to over and over again. And anytime you learn a word, it's in context within that story, and you're gonna keep hearing it, so you're not gonna forget it. Whereas if I taught you 200,000 random words of Italian, well, let's say there's probably only 200,000 words in Italian. So let's say I taught you 40,000 random words in Italian, okay? And only 15,000 of them show up in this story here. Pinocchio is a 4.5-hour story, by the way. So you got 4.5 hours of story, and only 15,000 of the words show up. You're going to forget the other 25,000 unless you have some reinforcement. So that's why I always tell people, number one, no, don't try to study. Just keep listening to it. Keep associating the words in the known language to the target language. Let it, over time, become clearer and clearer to you. Okay? Exactly how you do it, hey. And by the way, there are people who they use part of my system. Okay? Number one, a whole lot of people start passively listening to their target language. Okay? They may not do anything else, but they take that away from me, and they thank me, and they say, hey, you know what? It does make a lot of sense to start listening to the language. It's really helped me a lot. That's good. And they go on their merry way. And then there's a lot of people who they do the passive listening, and then they do the ear tuning, which a couple days later, for Italian or most languages, they're all of a sudden hearing Italian pretty darn good. Okay. And at that point, it's like, okay, I appreciate it. You've given me this habit of doing the passive listening. And yes, I love it that now I can hear the Italian really well. But now I'm going to go my own way. And what is that own way a lot of times? It's an app of some type. Where the app is systematically teaching them not only sentence by sentence, grammar, vocabulary. To me, hey, I'm not saying it's the best way to do it. It's not the way I would do it, but at least they're continually getting input as to what Italian words mean. So there's all kinds of ways to take what I am talking about and applying it. Also, there's the other end of it. What if a person already has their ear tuned into a language because, for instance, they're a Spanish speaker and they're learning Italian? The Italian ear tuning syllables will help them a little bit, but not that much. Okay, so surrounding themselves with Italian probably help them a little bit, but again, their ear is already, they got a native ear for Spanish. They're going to be able to follow Italian fairly well, so they're not coming to me for that. They may be coming to me for the other part of it. How do you soak up the Italian? Well, then I give them the strategies of doing the read-throughs or doing the comparisons. Okay, so it's depending on who the person is, they may use any part of my system. Okay, and I'm going to talk about the last part of my system, which is not part of my system. It's what I have people finish with. Because I'm teaching multiple languages and learning multiple languages, it is possible that could interfere with me becoming fluent. It could interfere with somebody else becoming fluent for a particular language if they're learning 5 of them all at once. Well, I believe that if a person hears something long enough correctly, they're hearing it perfectly, they're going to start speaking the words correctly without any accent. But then maybe they're not going to be still fluent unless they start doing what I tell them, which is get very, very familiar with a few audiobooks. In other words, instead of trying to learn everything in Italian, know a little bit of it a whole lot, very, 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 very well. That'll help you, because if you're very, very comfortable with stuff, it's more chance you're going to try to use it in a conversation, okay? But beyond that, there's this method that is specifically designed to promote fluency. It's called, first of all, the guy's on YouTube. It's about a 20-minute long video. It's entitled something like "Learn Russian by Short." Yeah, it's called the storytelling method. Yeah, the Learn Russian by the storytelling method. Okay, I've used this somewhat with Brazilian Portuguese. I've used it with Dutch a bit. I will be using it with my language partner who I'm teaching German. We're going to use it for German. And here's how it goes. Now, first of all, the goal is to get you speaking without thinking. Okay? That's partly what fluent is. If someone asks you a question, you blurt out an answer, okay, in the target language. Well, so you're given a story, okay? It could be a story only a couple, 2 or 3 paragraphs long, not a very long story. And then the native speaker is asking you questions about that story. And that person is expecting you to answer as fast as you can. Now, the answers that you are supposed to give are all written down for you. So you have the story, and below the story, you have all the answers to choose from. Now, you may only use a little, the answer might be, no, you did not do that, you did this, okay? Full sentence. But if the person just answers no, that's good enough. That means he understood the question, and he immediately answered no, and whatever the guy says, whatever answer, there is no correcting the person because you're trying to get them to talk fast. So correcting somebody is going to make them think too much before they speak. So you never correct them. If they make a mistake, the next question you give them, maybe they mispronounce something. So the next question, you put that word in your question, pronounce it correctly, of course, since you're a native speaker. So they hear the word said correctly. And now, and then they answer the next question, they may now say the word correctly. If not, oh well. So this system has everything in it. Ear tuning, because, well, the guy's saying the same thing over and over again, same questions over and over and again. Now, mind you, you can make a million different questions about the same story, but the person asking the questions is supposed to keep going back to the same ones over and over because it's part of ear tuning. You keep hearing the same phrase over and over. So now the guy speaking Russian, he tells people that this is an intense, demanding type thing. If you don't know any Russian, then it can be kind of intense for you. Now, he also says it's for any level. So maybe you can already pick up Russian pretty good, but you still don't have that fluency. So the method's good for that too. Well, what I tell people just getting started in Russian is use my system because it's easy to pick up Russian, to hear it correctly, get a big vocabulary in Russian, and then you go do what he's asking, these short stories, and you understand all the short stories. You understand his questions. You hear him just fine. Now it's just a matter of you blurting out the answer. And apparently, I've only seen that one 20-minute thing he has on YouTube. It's about a little girl getting lost in the forest. Help you identify it if you look for it. So if you find that, he also invites you to go to his whole series. And he says with his whole series, he can teach you Russian through the storytelling method. And hey, you want to go try that? That's fine. My observation is that I had zero difficulty using his storytelling method because my ear was already tuned into Russian, etc. So hey, consider for any storytelling method. But back to why am I bringing this up? Because I don't have a direct way to get you fluent in a language. So I will get you through understanding these audiobooks by ear, getting really good pronunciation, having a pretty darn high vocabulary. But when it comes to you're worried about actual fluency, being able to speak without thinking, then I'm going to point to this guy, okay? And if you're learning from me, I'm going to steer you into my own personal bunch of stories in these various languages. And the problem is I'm not a native speaker of any of these except English, and okay. And neither the person I'm teaching obviously is not a native speaker, okay? So, but I always believe that to an extent, any two people trying to practice a language in a structured manner like that is a great way to go about it. I've always done that. When I like teach my son German, I would have structured conversations with him. We'd have the same conversations. I'm not talking about telling the stories. That was the Russian guy there, but I would have the same structured conversations with my son over and over again. So he would know exactly how to, if I said, how are you? He could say, how are you back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, my son ended up pretty good 7th grade reading level in German when he quit and switched to Spanish. And then he never stuck to it. Still to this day, trying to teach him Spanish. This has been like 5 years now, and he's not like, see, the German, he lived with me back then, or down next door to me, actually. And so I spent a lot of time reading books in German and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not with him to do the same thing in Spanish. If I was living near him, the same that within 1,000 miles, yeah, we'd probably get together and I could read him books in Spanish to teach in Spanish the same way I taught him German, right? But anyway, and another competing way to learn German is to read a book in German. I do not recommend this. If you're trying to read a book on your own and you don't know any German, it's going to take a long time to look up all the words and figure out all the German. If you start with 3rd grade level stuff, I started 4th grade level stuff myself. Spent over probably 2 years doing that. Went to 7th grade level stuff, and then I went to newspapers for like a year and a half. Then I finally started reading novels in German. The whole way, I'm teaching myself. I am looking up German words I don't know, and I'm learning the stuff in a book. Compared to that, I believe you can learn just as much German in a few months as you can in years and years of reading it. Why? Because if you're doing my system, it means you're reading it from an audiobook, number one. Number two, I'm going to tell you what every sentence means to start out. I'm going to tell you what all the words means. You're not spending any time figuring it out. Pretty soon, you're going to know your first audiobook. and it's going to go quicker and quicker. In a few months, you're on your 12th audiobook, and you've pretty much caught up to where I was several months back when I went back to German after several years not studying it. You can forget a lot of stuff. The reason my system works so fast is that you're not only getting that association between the known language and the target language in the read-throughs, you're also surrounding yourself with the same German audiobook or audiobooks. So you're getting double reinforced. You're hearing it around you all day. You're hearing it during your read-throughs. And you just learn it so much faster in that regard. You never forget anything. I mean, you never learn anything totally. Neither do you ever forget anything. Because how can you forget what you have not fully learned? Right? So there's no forgetting. There's only learning in my system. And so, but that's another way. People like to read books. They like to spend time reading books. They love reading books. Hey, I'm not going to tell you not to read a book. Okay? You like reading books, you read the book. I'm just telling you, you probably have a lot more fun if you let me teach you German, get you a good start, and then read German novels. You're still going to look up some words. You're still going to muddle through it a little bit, but it's not going to be so time consuming, and you can go through a novel a week instead of your first full-length novel taking a year, as it did me, after having done all the 3rd grade, 7th grade, and the newspaper stuff, which I think is like 8th, 9th grade level. So, yeah, I would want you to go through that, spending a whole year on your first German novel when you can enjoy a whole bunch of German novels in that same year if you start with my system and learn a whole lot of vocabulary first. Okay, so that's it for today. On the read-throughs, tomorrow's system is going to be just about read-throughs, but there's more to it. So tomorrow will be a again overall view quickly of my whole system. And I'm going to end this with one thing before I let you go. Oh, okay, wait a second. It's going to be a review of the whole system, and then getting into the nuts and bolts of read-throughs. Okay, and in way of introduction at the end of this video, my name is Lee Solden. I am currently learning and teaching what I know: Greek, Italian, Dutch, French, Spanish, German, Russian, Korean, Hindi, Mandarin, mainstream Arabic, and Brazilian Portuguese.